there is stuff about Kurt, but I think there's more about his daughters. I think there's more about Jimmy. I'm not sure I gave her all that information, but that's what I was thinking. Uh, you've been very particular in how you've talked about Kurt Cobain over the years, and I'm wondering how you dealt with this. I know your book editor, Carrie Thornton, is a very tasteful, smart person, but I imagine for years people were saying, "Dave, write the Kurt Cobain book. Here's $5 billion." How did you deal with this in this situation?
Um, well, first of all, like I said earlier, we were kind of choosing these stories not in any sort of chronological order, but by emotional relevance or importance. So obviously, um, Kurt was going to be a part of the book in that, in how important our time together was. So it was a pretty short period of time, from the time I joined the band to the time Nevermind came out. I mean, I think it was maybe like 4 years, or from the time I joined the band to the time the band ended, it was about 4 years. And yeah, I kind of knew what people wanted me to write. I kind of knew what people maybe expected me to write. But instead of doing that, I wanted to focus on a much broader emotional picture. And so the chapter in which I write about Kurt passing, I that was the last piece I wrote because I was kind of afraid to write it. I was like, oh God, how am I gonna say this? How am I gonna do this? How can I put this into words? And I decided to talk about grief and mourning and loss and the process of healing, um, and how that's different with each person that you lose, and how that's determined. Is it determined by time, or is it determined by the depth of the relationship? So, um, you know, when I started writing the book, I I wasn't sure. There was a part of me that hoped I had enough to write, and I kept writing and kept writing and kept writing. I finally got to maybe 300 pages, and I don't even know if I'd mentioned the Foo Fighters yet. I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? And it got to the point where Carrie was like, stop writing, stop writing, stop writing. Like, there was just too much to put in one book. So the challenge really um, was which stories to include, and that was difficult. But obviously, my time in Nirvana and the stuff about Kurt was very important to the story, and some of it was a pleasure to write. Some of it was really difficult, and but I think we put it all together well.
You still find it hard to sit on the drums and play Nirvana songs, right? That still creates a sort of trauma for you.
Well, it's different now. I mean, 25 years ago, yes, it was difficult just to sit down at the drums and play, much less play a Nirvana song. But over the years, Chris Novoselic and Pat Smear and I have gotten together a few times, and I think over time it becomes more of a celebration of that music, and like it's almost like you're paying tribute to it or honoring it. You always feel like there's something missing if you sit down and play those songs. You know that someone is missing. And it's funny how the muscle memory works. Just to sit down and play any song that we used to play in Nirvana, it comes back like that. I think that's how like deeply ingrained that whole experience was to all of us. But there have been a few times where we've done it, and we it's bittersweet. We look at each other and we're reminded of this great music that we made, but there's someone missing. So we don't do it often, but when we do, it means a lot.